And good evening, and welcome to our podcast, Sideline Session. Normally, full court pressure. I guess we're going to change it up a little bit and bring in a little GW love here tonight. Jamie LeMasters, one of my favorite coaches. Coach, we haven't had a chance to talk basketball. I think last year we had a little fundraiser going on with St. Albans High School, and you came down and we talked a little basketball, and so it's good to get back with you and talk a little basketball. Congratulations. Only one loss on the season this year and number one seed in the state tournament. Your thoughts on the season, and we'll talk about the tournament here in a second.
Well, first off, thanks for having me, and you're right. I believe it was last year we were down at Shuckers in St. Albans.
Yes, that's correct.
Maybe a soccer fundraiser.
I was for the girls' graduation. Or your niece and
yes,
my
Madison.
Yes, and
yeah,
my stepdaughter's
but, yeah, we haven't got to talk much since then. But yeah, it's been a good season for us. I remind the girls that we've done a lot of good things, but we haven't done anything great just yet.
Yes.
And I'm not, I understand the importance of what we've done, but we also don't want to get too comfortable with what we've accomplished. But to this point, 21-1 on the season, and started 18-0, had a setback up at Parkersburg. That was a 66-73 loss on February 13th, and then we went 3-0 after that, including a second game with Parkersburg in the MSAC championships, which we were able to get 59-54. So it's been a nice season to this point.
You know, that's probably one of the toughest teams to get in to get to the state tournament there. So
they're really good.
Yeah, they are. They're really good. As far as the loss, I mean, I know probably every coach wants to go undefeated, but maybe it's kind of a reset there type thing. You know, the girls get kind of complacent and sometimes, and I'm not saying your girls did,
right.
But I've seen it with every level of basketball. You know, you win. You just take it for granted sometimes, and the state tournament was just around the corner there because that was just a recent loss. It was probably maybe a good reset maybe for you. Or
I'm really glad that you see it that way, because I see it the same. I'm not into losing. I understand it happens, but it's not something I'm into. But when you're 18-0 and you're approaching postseason, sometimes a loss against a really quality opponent is not a terrible thing to help refocus your team, yourself. Maybe just here's some things that we're not doing well right now. We've slipped into some bad habits, maybe some complacency and different things. So, again, I've never been undefeated, so and I'm not this year. So, but that loss at that time gave us a chance, like you mentioned, to hit the reset button. So that was a timely event for us that I think's paid dividends coming down here in the postseason these last few games.
Now, through the season, you had a player down, probably one of your better players prior, but you guys still won through that. So what's that say about your team to be able to have your best player sitting on the bench and you guys still perform at top level?
I'll talk about some things. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because this team has been really resilient this year. We have had to find several different ways to win throughout the season, one being without Jariah. That was tough, but again, if you look at a silver lining in that, you're able to start Zakira Myers as a freshman and get her that experience. We're fortunate we were able to come out because Jariah's a big piece of what we do. But then also, we've had to fight through not shooting the ball well, scoring adversity, sickness, injury we just mentioned. We're down at Myrtle Beach in the finals against Deep Creek in the second quarter. I look up, we're down 33-11. I said, just go get that runner-up trophy and let me get a head start on the way home. But what the kids have done is they always find a way. And generally what happens is they'll sit down and start defending really well, and then they're able to work through it. But we've been through situations where the foul count, there was a particular game this year, and I'll leave out the situation out of respect, but the foul count was 13-1 at the end of three quarters, not in our favor. So we've had to learn to battle through that. We've had games where we just shot the ball terrible. Good shots, clean shots, unselfish shots, but just can't do it. And we've talked about injury, sickness, and all the things. So they've done a really good job of finding a variety of ways to win with different types of adversity. I'm really proud of them for that this year.
New brackets this year with the 4A and then a lot of the teams stepping down. Do you felt the 4A still as strong as it has been? I mean, you're taking this state champion and moving them down to 3A this year.
I'll tell you what, if you had some of those teams in 3A playing up in 4A, that would be an ultra-competitive classification. I know what we did this year with the 4A, and when we went to a north and south region. There's only 2 regions now. From a standpoint of playing at that level, your best 8 teams, I'm not saying best 8 in the state, but your best 8 teams in 4A, I think you got it right. But what you lost is you may have lost some of your regional representation, because we used to have 4 regions.
Yes.
So now, I mean, 2 of the teams could be from over here or down here, but I think it helps you get the best 8 to Charleston. I was a fan of that. I had actually mentioned just in different interviews, I can't remember which one it was, that what we should do is go to a north and south and just seed it. Again, nothing's perfect. I'll give you a downside of it. This year we earned the number 1 seed in the region, so we did not have a play-in game. We got a bye. So from February 21st until March 4th, we sat and waited to see who we were going to play.
Yeah.
Okay, that's tough from not playing a game standpoint, but at the same time, it does give you a chance, whenever we run into that, to reflect back on us, look at some things we need to clean up, maybe some things we've gotten away from, highlighting maybe some bad habits or different things that we're not doing well. So it did give us a chance to do that, but at that point in the season, to set that long sometimes is tough.
It is.
But there's pluses and minuses to it.
Yeah. State tournament, how many you been?
I've been in GW 22 years. I've been to 10 tournaments and 8 semifinals, 2 first-round exits. I've been close that many times. And I would love to play in that game on Saturday with respect to everyone in my bracket.
Yeah.
I would just like to get an opportunity to see what that feels like. But if it's not to be, then if that's where my career is at, I'm okay with that too.
With all those semifinal teams, rank this team with them. If they top, you think? Top to bottom?
I don't need to give anybody any fuel, but this is the best team I've had at George Washington High School.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you. What we saw at St. Albans, I mean, especially your freshman, I think Gum was the other freshman.
Patty.
And honestly, I think probably the best 2 freshmen that I've seen. Because, I mean, they are, I can't say that because when Pryor and Breckenridge were freshmen, they were good.
But even they, as talented as they are,
and,
looking back, when they were freshmen up here 2 years ago, we came in number 1, and we had some, when things didn't go our way out there on the floor, we mentally didn't show strength, and I don't want to use the word shut down, but let that get to us. The difference with this team right now is one, I mean, I'm not going to act like I have a magic whiteboard. I have talent. I mean, I do. Mm-hmm. They're gifted athletes, but they also put the work in, the time, the effort. But what we haven't, I've had some great players at George Washington. I had a state player of the year in Calissa Lacey. Mm-hmm. I've had some good ones. I can go all the way back to the Brittany Holsteins and just my first year and my second year, and my second year we were in the semis. But back to the point of what this team has got, probably two kids you would highlight, but then there's a supporting cast around them that are talented as well. And that's what I've been missing in the past. I've had some great ones, but I just didn't have the supporting cast that I have right now.
With your two top players there, juniors, they've been here twice, correct?
They've been here all 3 years.
Well, you'll be this third year.
Yes.
So when you go to that locker room.
Correct. Let me correct. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, they were here their freshman year. We came in number 1. We were beaten in the semifinals by Morgantown. We were up 13 at the half. Last year, we came in. We were the 6th. That's when we upset 3 Parkersburg, and then we lost in the semis to Morgantown again. So this is year 3. But the last 2 years they've been to the semifinals.
Okay, so 2 years with them. You go to the locker room. You let them talk. You let them tell the younger players what this is about and what it's like out there, and get the butterflies out now. Or how does that?
I tell you what I pulled them aside and have talked to them about is for the Collinsberry Bruces, Zakir Myers, Addie Gums that haven't played on this stage. Mm-hmm. I can talk to them, but it would be way more beneficial if you would
For
talk
them.
to them as an upperclassman player.
I agree.
Just tell them what to expect.
Yeah.
Now, I do bring them down. We'll be here in the morning, and I don't know how many people do this. We have the luxury of being close. I bring them down just so they can see things like the introductions, media timeouts, how everything works, to try to get them as familiar as I can, because I don't care what anybody says. You think you're ready for that stage out there, you're not.
You're not. I mean,
not.
you see it in the girls. I mean, or even the boys. It's not a girl thing. You see great players just don't know how to step up on that big stage. You know, you'll see them just, you know, starstruck. But then you get some that are probably not your stars step up.
You know, back to you were mentioning, do I have them talk to them? There's times that you know, we'll go in and say what we need to say, and we leave plenty of time on the clock, and we go, now you guys talk to them. I'm going out here. Come out when you're ready.
Yeah.
We do that. Generally at the end of practice, we come up to the mid-court, and we always circle up and talk. And anybody got anything to say? You know, they might talk about how the energy was today, or Coach, I thought the focus was good, or Coach, it wasn't very good today. You know, so I prefer, and I've been like this for last year. I wasn't always like this. I prefer what I call a player-led team. If I have to come out and try to pull energy out of you all, and I understand that's part of my job, but if I have to do that all the time and I can't get energy out of you, or I have to, you know, do all of the talking, I would prefer to be what I call player-led and have my players, you know, leading some of those aspects. And it takes a couple things, I think, to do that. One, I've been doing it for 32 years. This is 22 at GW. You have to be willing to relinquish some control, and you have to be confident enough to let the players lead in that manner. Not everybody can do that. A lot of guys want their finger on everything, which I understand. I just lean more to the player-led side.
Yeah, well, it's good to have that leadership. I mean, if you can
That always helps.
You got them girls that know, you know, what it's like, what to say, you know, to get everybody involved. And I think it's more difficult with girls, knowing I've coached girls in softball and soccer, that, you know, that I felt that it's really hard to get them to speak up, because I don't know if they just don't want to hurt feelings, or I don't know what it is.
I think sometimes you run into that. You've got you know, younger kids who let's talk about maybe their freshman, sophomore year, and then you've got two really experienced kids sitting there as juniors or maybe seniors, and they want to have input, they want to lead. Maybe they just don't know how. To your point, is this my time? Is this my place?
Yeah.
At GW, we have no such. We don't. There is no such thing as entitlement. If you're one of the best, you will play.
Yeah.
If you're all freshmen and you're the best, you will play. You know, there's a spot for everybody on our team. You know, there's kids that bring bench energy to me. They don't see the floor a lot, but they bring that bench energy. So there's a time and a place for everything there, and the roles available there. The kids have done a nice job of filling them this year, especially.
Yeah. Tournament. I know, I'm pretty sure you've looked at the field, and you know who on that field of 8 you feel that could give you problems.
Parkersburg's awful good, with respect to everybody. Kind of an outlier that's unknown to me because I just don't see them. I think they're 19-2 now is Martinsburg. They've had 2 losses this year. Both have been to Greenbrier East. I do have a lot of film on them with today's huddle. You know, it's a click of a button and film gets sent. So I just haven't seen them live. I've seen quite a bit of them. I have, let me think here, in this tournament, I've played 4 of them, but Parkersburg twice. So we're whatever and one against the field. But, you know, Parkersburg is just awful good.
A lot of seniors, I do believe, if I remember correctly.
He's got 7, I think.
Yeah, and that helps. I mean, you're talking about young. I think all those players started young. I mean, they played a lot when they were freshmen.
You know, there's just something to be said for the fact that you can have young talent, but there's just something about an 18-year-old, 4-year veteran player. And then also you factor in that sense of urgency, because this is my last time, that senior urgency. That can make a difference.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we wish you luck. And talk about, and I had the notes and I left them in my work truck. Game time and opponent.
So we've got kind of an interesting thing this year as the rotations. This year, 4A will play on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 straight. whoever advances.
You like that better than the 2 days off?
It doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother.
We put so much time into weight room and conditioning. Actually, I think it's advantage GW, to tell you the truth. Now, as long as nobody gets banged up, okay, let's say we stay healthy. But our slot will be Thursday at 5:30 with Washington, who we played game 2 this year up at Fairmont Senior in an opening tournament. And then the next round will be the Parkersburg South, Martinsburg winner. And then I do know that the game on Saturday, the finals, is at 7:30. So it would be 5:30, 7:30 if you play all the way through. Right now I'm just focused on Washington High School and getting through round 1 healthy, and hopefully it comes out as a Patriot win. But like I said, we have played them once. I do remember this. I know it's a 1-8 game, but when we played them, we were down 19-10 in the first. We were down 3 at the half, but then, as I was talking earlier, finding a way to win. We defended really well in the second half, and it was a 51-40 game. So
I remember you talking about that when we played. When you played St. Albans, that there's been a few games that this team just seems like it just gets better as the game goes on and gets better defensively.
Well, they start defending really well is what they do.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes you're not shooting the ball well, you're having offensive issues. My team's never selfish, but sometimes you just don't shoot the ball well. So the only option you got is to sit down and really start defending, maybe try to create some easy buckets out front, some live ball turnovers, and that's what they've been able to do. Whenever they really need it, they'll sit down and defend.
So, well, good luck.
Thank you.
And we'll hopefully get out maybe for the championship game here on Saturday to watch you guys in it. So it's unusual to have a George Washington coach on our program, but
well, I live in St. Albans, if that counts.
That counts.
All right.
And maybe we can do this again next year. We'll have a dual matchup or something together. I don't know how this MSAC will play out now. It's
going to be interesting. I think next year is going to be the same format, but the year after it's really going to change.
Yeah.
Two divisions, 2 different classifications.
So we'll see if this continues, St. Albans GW. So we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll get you suited with another guest here. We'll see who Elias Gregory will pop in here with us with. So we'll be right back.
Introducing new frosted sodas and floats. The original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich and new frosted sodas and floats. Only at Chick-fil-A.
Your nursing future starts at Bridge Valley. Become an LPN in 12 months or an RN in 16. With hands-on training and state-of-the-art facilities like our immersion classroom, your nursing career starts at Bridge Valley. You bring the heart, we'll teach the rest.
I know that you've heard the name Shuckers. Shuckers has been at 70 Old Main Street, St. Albans for more than a decade. Really, serving up such great food like Shucker shrooms, jerk shrimp, juicy steaks, seafood, wings, stuffed shells, scallops, thin crust pizzas. There's something here for every taste bud in your house. Come hang out in the cozy bar area or bring your crew in and stretch out in the dining room for a memorable evening. Shuckers is more than seafood, it's your food. Open Tuesday through Saturday. We'll see you at Shuckers.
Sideline Sessions continues, and Coach St. Albans, you're not in the tournament, but Elias Gregory is with us, and fresh off of what are we fresh off of here, man? What have you been doing? Golfing here?
Fresh
the last
off,
week?
fresh off of working on the side deck, which had been heinously mistreated, and so I'm trying to get that till I can get my gazebo set back up the way I want it and get my side deck set back up because it was nice out. We spent a lot of time dealing with leaves and stuff this week, but yeah, not in the tournament, but can't get away from it because I love it too much to get away from it. And I know we had talked about this a little last year, Josh and I, and you had talked about doing things that aren't necessarily always just St. Albans driven. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe because I know you're into soccer, I know Josh will still be in cheerleading and football and everything else that he's going to be in with the younger kids that he has going on. And I think Josh agreed to at least stay on the staff for another year. That's what I saw, and I think that's a binding contract. Is a Facebook comment a binding contract?
Yeah.
I feel like it is. Okay. So I think this is a nice little toe dip into doing a little something that's maybe not always St. Albans driven, because we can, talk.
It's good to talk to Jamie. Jamie does live in St. Albans, he mentioned, and I don't think. We always support anybody local anyway. So
he's one of the people. The thing that I have loved about the MSAC, and I've turned into the world's biggest MSAC honk, obviously. The thing that's been great about that is people like Jamie, people like Frisbee, people like Chris, who's up in Parkersburg, people like Coach Schmidt, who's in the tournament. You could rattle off, have all been really awesome to deal with, and were really inviting from the first time that I ever got into the conference. So it's always nice to put people like that on and stuff. So it's good.
That's good. I don't even know where you want to start. You want to start with the tournament, or you want to start?
We start wherever you want to start.
All right. Well, let's take a look at it.
Okay.
You're part of the 3A division, so we'll start with the 3A. Out of your bracket, I guess you had Nitro and Spring Valley come out of there, and both in the top 3 seeds.
Yep.
And then.
That says all you need to say about how tough that region was, obviously. And both very deserving of being top seeds for sure.
Well, you got Spring Valley 4A champion last year. So stepping down to 3A. And what do you think that team just starts getting? I know experience, but a lot of teams go in a kind of a lull toward the end of the season. You'll see their legs get tired. But it doesn't seem to work that way for Spring Valley. Well, what does he do different
I don't know.
At the end of the year that just springboards them into monster teams?
I think the people like Bo at Spring Valley, like Jamie at GW, like Lonnie at Huntington and stuff. You've been in it that much. You've been in deep runs that long that you're able to figure out how to manage them a little better. I think probably part of it is the way they schedule. I think part of it is they do a good job of ramping kids up, and I think their kids expect to be here every year, and so maybe they go through a little, not necessarily lull, but it's when you're expecting to play games in March, it's hard to always get up for games in December and January, and I think as they get deeper into it, and those kids almost can smell it, that it's getting closer. I think Nitro's like that too, because you look at the kind of run they went on towards the end of the season with the teams they beat, with the Morgantown win and Boyd County and the wins that they had that were really impressive. I think teams like that are veteran and expect to make deep runs, their lull is in the middle of the season. Their lull is at the beginning of the season. They're just kind of treading water until they get to games that really, really matter. So I think that's a lot of why they like that. Probably as to what they do specifically, I don't know, but I bet you it's a lot of that.
Well, you're talking about the low or the lull. Spring Valley lost to Nitro early in the season, but it didn't seem to hurt them at the end of the season. They still came in one spot above them when they ranked. Which I don't know if there's much difference between 2 and 3, but.
To me, not really, because, obviously Nitro. It was interesting that Nitro was the 1 seed in the region, and then so they were seated ahead of them regionally when the regional coaches voted. And then I think I think the way we do the state tournament. Now I'm not going to get into the regional seeding voting right now. But I think the way we do the state tournament seeding is the best way that you can do it. Because I don't really know, I don't think a football system works when everybody's not playing everybody and stuff. But I do think that part of what sometimes gets voted on, if the teams in the South only really ever see the South and the teams in the North only really ever see the North, I think sometimes you get voted based on last year sometimes. Because I think our seeding last year, I think we were seated below teams that we had beat last year, but I think it was like a name recognition thing. So I think that probably Spring Valley winning the 4A title last year and the records being kind of similar and stuff, I think is why they're seated higher statewide. They've been voted higher in the coaches poll every time, which is the statewide teams. I think that a lot of it is name recognition. Not a lot of it. I think obviously you have to win games. But I think part of it is name recognition when you get to you have maybe 8 teams voting on you that have never seen you, that have no clue what you do or even know who your players are. And when you're looking at like records, I think sometimes it's, well, that team won Quad A last year. Maybe they're better than somebody else. So I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah. Interesting. But number one, Greenbrier East has played both of those teams, I do believe, haven't they?
No, they didn't play Spring Valley. They only played Nitro.
Did play Nitro. Supposed to be twice, I think, and I think the second game maybe got snowed out there. But Green Valley East did defeat Nitro, and then Nitro defeated Spring Valley. So it's kind of interesting there.
Right.
But you've played both. Almost played three if it wasn't for the snow.
Right.
As far as,
but I've seen Nitro plenty because my son, being over there, so I have to go to. I go to plenty of Nitro games, so I've seen them plenty, even though I haven't played them.
Yeah. So, not saying there's anything wrong 4 through 8, but as far as 1, 2, 3, equally matched. You see you see a advantage for one of those teams. Or?
It's an interesting contrast of I think all three of them are different. It's not. Sometimes you get in this thing where all the good teams all run and gun, or all the good teams press, or all the good teams play slow, or they have a good big or something. All three of those teams are different. I think that, in the way that I think Green East is going to play zone, they're going to play that 2-3 zone. It is incumbent on, can Spring Valley make shots? Can Nitro make shots against that? I haven't seen all the Green East games. Obviously, I saw them play us, and we were not a great shooting team who could shoot you out of a zone. I would be curious to see what Green East's answer is when somebody is shooting the lights out against you, which, Nitro has kids that can shoot the lights out, and Spring Valley has kids that can shoot the lights out. So I'm curious what their answer to that is. Then you look at Spring Valley, and, Bo's there's no secret in what he's doing. He's diamond pressing you. They're running up and down. They're getting threes. I think a big difference in them now as compared to earlier in the season from the two different times I saw them is that Emma Edwards blocking shots, and their center has become such a force inside that she defensively, I think, has changed them a little bit from what they were earlier in the year. But there's no secret what they're doing. They're going to press you. They're going to run up and down. They're going to shoot threes. If they're making threes, they can score 101 points like you've seen. If they're not, they can get themselves in a little bit of trouble. And then I think Nitro's probably the most versatile of the bunch. They want to play a slower pace than the other two. They want to keep the score lower than the other two. But, the one thing that you have to say about Nitro the entire time Pat's been there is they can get you into the mud and just suffocate you out there. They're not trying to play a 77 to 70 game. They're trying to play in the 40s, and they can do it. And I've seen them do it to people. So just where they just slowly choke you out defensively and the way they run their offense. So it's, it'd be interesting to say who you think wins, because I think it's such a difference in styles. But I think that's what makes 3A really, really interesting this year, is that there's so many different styles, and who knows what wins in this.
Yeah, and I think the interesting is we talked to Jamie about experience. He's got players that's been there 2 years now, and this will be their third. But that 3A, it just seems like the same teams.
Well, they've got all kids. Like, all three of those teams have got kids that have been there multiple times. I think that
all the way down, the Kaisers, the Graftons. And
Kaiser to me is the team that I'm kind of excited to see, because I saw them twice during the regular season last year when we went to the East Fairmont tournament. And I saw them, they basically had Wayne beat over here last year in 3A, who eventually went on to win the state title. That coach, every time I've seen him, he's one of the most impressive coaches I've seen in high school basketball. I mean, they run some stuff, and they're good. And now, do I know their players' names? It's the thing of when you talk about where you're voting. I don't know any of their players' names. Not trying to be rude. I just don't know who they are because I haven't seen them. But that's the team that I'm probably most excited to see this year, because I don't know, based on their schedule and stuff. I wonder is that team sneakily really close to those other three that we're talking about, because I know the coach is really, really good, and I'm sure they run good stuff, and I'd be interested to see how the players are. So
I don't know how many's back from last year, but I was at that game because they played before you guys last year, and they look
good.
They looked real good. I mean, they run very few turnovers. I mean, they run good cuts.
Yes, they run good stuff. For high school basketball, they run really good stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely Wayne's time to go down, and they survived it and moved on and won the championship.
Yep.
So, other brackets, I guess we'll do 4. You, I don't know, you follow single and double.
The only thing I would say about single and double is my opinion is, I mean, Gilmer County, I think with those 2 twins, the 2 6'1" girls, I know they lost their best guard from last year. Haven't seen them this year, but those two girls are really, really talented. They could play in any class in the state. That if you could get enough guard play for this big floor to not bother you, I think you got a big problem with them. Double A, you know, obviously I see Catholic every now and then. They had a big injury that I think to one of their guards that I think probably hurts them. But James Monroe, when we saw him last year when we played them, they were really, really good. They had a sophomore who was really, really good, and their last names are Dunlap, and I don't know which one's which because there's 3 girls. The one graduated. Then there was a girl who's a freshman this year who's one of the Dunlap sisters who she used to, when I used to coach travel basketball, she would play up like 2 years in travel basketball and just be insane good. Wow. I would be shocked if James Monroe didn't win Double A just because I know those 2, and that's another big win that Nitro. I think Nitro might be the only team that's beat them all year. But those 2 Dunlap girls are like the real deal. So I'd be a little surprised if they didn't win it. But am I super versed in it? No. I just know that how good those girls are from watching them since I think when we were playing 8th and 9th grade travel that the one that's a freshman now was probably 5th grade, and she was one of the best players in these 7th and 8th grade tournaments. So I think it'd be a tough out.
Now your old bracket, the 4A bracket, we just talked to Jamie. He got the number 1 seed. Morgantown, you know, down one of their best players there. They kind of, I wouldn't say they tailed off at the end of the season, but, you know, they had a few losses there toward the end of the season.
Right.
But where do you see 1 and 2 on that? Jamie sees probably Parkersburg and Martinsburg being the 2 toughest challenges.
I've seen almost every one of those teams. I think Washington is probably the only team that I can think of offhand that I haven't seen in person. You know, Jamie's team is obviously good. When you have a player like Jeriah.
He said he struggled against Washington.
Well, when you have
for 3 quarters.
I'll tell you the thing that I think if I was going to just give an analysis on the GW side is this is not me saying they're going to lose games. This is not me saying but like Washington, and if you would play Martinsburg, that's assuming that Martinsburg would beat Park South, which I don't think you can just assume. Those are 2 teams that will drag you in, like a Nitro style thing, that will drag you into a slugfest. And up here at the Civic Center, you see a lot of times that if you're a team that relies on jump shooting and stuff, that a team that will drag you into the deep end can cause you problems. Not that I would say I'm predicting either of those to win. I just think, especially when you have to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, back to back to back, GW getting Washington and then getting Martinsburg, assuming Martinsburg would beat Park South, but I don't know, is kind of a tough slog of back to back. Just they're going to be physical. They're going to play defense on you. They're going to make you play for 32 minutes, regardless of what the score is. They don't have any quit in them. They're those kind of teams. You know, the Morgantown thing, I've seen them a couple times. Boy, I think Fulks can coach, and I think that they keep getting kids hurt all the time. But Lord, they have just people that come in and still can shoot, dribble, can shoot, dribble, pass.
Been like that since I've been in high
just
school.
Crazy that they always. It doesn't matter who they graduate. It doesn't matter who they can all shoot. Whatever they're doing in the youth league up there in that area is insane because they just replace them all the time. So they're young, they're inexperienced, but I don't think I would count them out by any stretch of the imagination. Parkersburg was a team that when I saw it last year, and all those kids were juniors and sophomores that I was always super impressed with, and I always thought really had a chance to be a big-time contender this year. And then they added Lucy Klein over the summer, who kind of gave them another element of physicality and stuff. Kennedy Porter might be, unless I'm forgetting somebody, Kennedy Porter might be the best big in this tournament, and she could just wreck games if they get in that situation. The one thing that when you can't rely on jump shooting sometimes, if you have a big that can just go get a bucket, Kennedy Porter's as good at like just going and getting a bucket as anybody. She's going to make you double her, and then you could get it out to the shooters and stuff like that. So I think they're kind of tough. Park South, obviously, of the famous 31-0 quarter against me. I'm not going to. They're all young, and that's the thing about Park South. They're all, basically freshmen. So they will be here for a while. I think that's one you'll definitely see here for a while. University played them last year in the tournament. Played them again this year. Good team. Got talent. I think their coach is a good young coach. He's a good guy and understands basketball and stuff like that. The 4A, I think, to me, and then you got, I don't want to forget about this, Coach Schmidt, who at Cabell Midland, who is like probably the most brilliant coach in girls basketball.
It took her 1 year to get there.
Oh my God! Like, you want to talk about run some stuff? I always talk about that time that we played her in just some random summer game, and her kid this summer, and she put our kids in the torture rack just of stuff that she was running. They're running crap. They're doing all these things. I think you got a shooter like Gracie who can make shots. You got Braylon who's a really, really good point guard, and they've got Sophie who's a good enough big that she can cause some problems inside too. Obviously I think everybody thinks it's a GW Parkersburg race. No disrespect to anybody else. But especially when you play back to back to back, when you have to play 3 days in a row, an ankle tweak, a knee tweak, something happens to your wrist or your hand, that could change the complexity of this entire thing. So, I think you've got a big 3 in 3A. I think you got a big 2 in 4A. But especially in 4A where it's 3 straight games, that could, just a little ankle tweak could change the whole thing. So.
Good deal. Now the MSAC well represented again this year. Some big time schools. You just mentioned them all, but we'll move on to the MSAC. Got some additions coming up in a couple seasons.
Yep.
Your thoughts? How they're going to do that?
Well, this is, me, I'm Mr. MSAC honk, so I don't want to sound like I'm too negative. I understand why they had to do it, because football runs everything, and you have to make decisions based on football, and playing the 4A teams against the 3A teams in football was not going to be sustainable over the long haul. And whatever they had agreed to last year of like the 2 crossover games or whatever it was, I don't think was going to be sustainable to keep the conference together over the long haul. I think what they did because one of those 2 conferences was going to survive. The Cardinal was going to survive, or the MSAC was going to survive, and I think that the MSAC figured out a way to survive. Now, as far as basketball goes, am I thrilled with 2 different all-conference teams, 2 different champions, 2 different this, that, and the third? I'm not a big fan of that. But in order to be able to get through and get where you needed to get to keep the conference alive, I think that was what they had to do. I think all those teams, Ripley, Winfield, Nitro, who's the 4th? Ripley, Winfield, Nitro, Hoover. Yeah. Obviously add a lot in different sports. Some are going to be up in football, some are going to be down in football, some are going to be good in volleyball and stuff like that. I think you made it a murder volleyball and softball conference for sure. But I think that the way they did it is probably the fairest way that they could do it. And I think you had to do it to keep the MSAC alive, or else the 3A teams were going to start peeling off. like I said, I'm not crazy about having 2 different conference teams, and because I like right now, being all MSAC means something.
Yeah.
Even if you're like an honorable mention kid, it means something. I think when you get to where you have 2 different, maybe it's not as prestigious a thing as it was. I do think the Night of Champions thing that they said is going to be all 1-2 games all the way down through and take 3-4 and put them on placement night. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a way to still make Night of Champions mean something in basketball. I don't know. What do you think? Where you at on it?
I kind of like it. Maybe not in basketball. Well, maybe you're right. Football, maybe you're good. But there's a lot of good basketball teams out there, boys and girls, that can compete probably with the G-Dubs and the Parkersburgs, and we don't know where those teams are going to be going in 3 years when this all gets fully
fleshed out.
Yeah. G-Dub will probably still be tough, but who knows? Parkersburg kids might all go across the river to Ohio or something, or Parkersburg South girls. But we've already seen Hurricane kind of slow down and basketball, boys and girls.
Well, I think that the main thing I want to do is try to still the way it's been explained to me is we don't play all the 4A. Everybody next year plays everybody still. It's still the MSAC the way it was this year, except we're adding Woodrow. That's the one thing that changes next year.
And you guys competed with Woodrow last year. You didn't play him this season.
And I think that I would like to still, like, GW's right there. I probably would still like to play them. I would like to still play even if I don't get scheduled against the MSAC teams, and even if they don't necessarily always count towards your standings or whatever they decide to come up with, I still think I would like to play those teams because those teams still mean something, and being in that still means something, and being a part of, like, playing Jamie and Chris and Ed and Christina and all those people, like, you get to test yourself against the best coaches in the state. And so I would like to still play all those people. I think that people may say that's crazy and think, well, why don't you just stay and just only play the 3A teams? But just the MSAC means something to me, and so I would like to still play all those people. But
being in the soccer, there's just no competition for GW St. Albans. St. Albans doesn't get the players out, boys or girls. So that kind of helps out. You can you have better chance of beating a Ripley than you do a GW.
Right. And I think probably basketball is the only sport to me where, because there's so many less kids on the floor than there are in soccer or football or anything like that. That's where, you could get 7-8 good kids and you could compete with anybody in the state in basketball. You need, I don't know how many you need in soccer because I'm not a soccer guy. But I'm assuming you probably need 10, 12.
You need 11.
Like good players. Football, it's 17, 18, 19 good players to be able to compete with. I'm sure GW football has, 35 super good players up there and stuff like that. So I could see where basketball only being 5, it maybe makes it a little easier to compete with everybody. But I'm sure they did what they had to do. I'm talking about specifically the basketball side of it and what I think about the basketball side of it. If I'm Mr. Hamrick and I'm the person that has to make that decision, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You've saved your conference. You take in teams who are really good and prestigious at a lot of different things. Nitro has state titles. Hoover's got state titles recently. Winfield's always in the mix and has good swimmers, has good volleyball teams, has good softball teams. Is competitive in football. Ripley, competitive in stuff in almost everything all the time, and has had teams that have been knocking on the door in different sports. So it's the right thing to do. I just, from a basketball standpoint, I'm just like, I get that having 16 teams and only having one all-conference or one champion is hard to do because that's a lot of people. And
I believe in keeping Kanawha County schools playing each other too. I always thought that should be, especially in basketball when you play more games. But
right.
I always thought you guys should maybe, or not you when you were there, but you guys should be playing Sissonville and maybe a Hoover. Not every year, but at least getting them.
Every now and then is good because, and I wonder what, it's going to get to the point where I wonder what the Sissonvilles and the people like that, they probably have to join that Little Creek Conference or something to be able to get games that they don't have to go some crazy far way away to go. I mean, I think that's why Woodrow joined the MSAC, was just to be able to not have to go all the way to Morgantown or the Eastern Panhandle to be able to play games.
Yeah, because some areas it's tough to get.
Yeah, I know Morgantown comes down this way a lot. Washington, I know, comes down this way a lot. University, I think, comes down this way 2 or 3 times. We've agreed to play a game next year over at State, because I'm sure those areas are probably harder to get people to play. You'd definitely rather be in the conference than not in it. That's what I would say for sure. Whatever I think about the all-conference teams or how many champions there are or whatever, I would definitely rather be in it than not, because if not, we're probably going to East Fairmont every week, or Fairmont, or having to go to the Eastern Panhandle and stuff to find games. So, I think it's
or playing down.
Yeah, but it's hard to get
double-A games, and you don't want to play down.
It's just hard to get those teams to play too. Like sometimes it's not competitive, but like they've got schedule stuff they want to play teams in their class too, and so sometimes being able to get some of those cross-class games, it's a lot easier to get at least I've seen in basketball. It's a lot easier to, like, a 4A team will play a AAA team, and there's not really a lot of issue with that. When it's harder to get to play the AA's, and I understand from their standpoint where it is. We're probably like double the size. St. Albans probably still double the size of Poca or double the size of Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Would it be nice to just drive over there and play at Poca so that you don't have to go, up to University? Yeah, it would be great, but not realistic. Yeah. So I think that it's if you're not in that conference, if you're not in the MSAC though, I do wonder if the Kanawha Valley teams that aren't, how they're going to get games going forward, and how far their travel is going to have to be, and how many times you see Poca at Gilmer County on a Tuesday night and stuff like that. I mean, it's just a thought, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the way West Virginia's geography and the way it's lining up, you're getting like a section of AA teams and a section of single A teams, but you don't really have that section of 4A teams or a section of 3A teams, which everybody changing classifications kind of helped the 3A out, because you guys, you got Nitro Winfield now and South Charleston and Riverside and Riverside's 4A, but you still have a little group of teams you can play. Yeah. Versus G-Dub. Now, they're 4A. Their closest team is Riverside, but outside of that, they got to travel over to Huntington, Cabell Midland,
Parkersburg, and all that stuff. And to only have 20 teams in that class makes it hard too, because you have 20 teams spread over a state that's
especially when it's a regional.
Yeah, that's this size. It's tough. It's tough. I would like to see the classes maybe end up a little more even. I understand why they did what they did. The formula makes sense to me, but I would like to maybe see the conferences or the classes a little more even to make it easier to schedule, stuff like that. But again, I don't think in basketball, where again it's only the 5 and it's not in football, it's so different. You and I know that. Or you've seen way more football games than I have, and I've just seen the difference in, that when you play GW, they have 90 kids. St. Albans has 25, 20, whatever it is. It's just a massive difference. In basketball, it's not as big a difference. I do think that those quad A football teams, though, I think that they probably have a really rough time they're probably driving all over. I mean, you see Hurricane plays games in Ohio and
Tennessee.
I've seen people in Michigan and Indiana and all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure that's a nightmare to figure out football. I'm glad that we don't have that problem with the basketball, where you have to go, to other states in order to do it. So it's interesting though. I think it's a good thing for us, for St. Albans personally. I think it's a good thing. I think it'll help them in a lot of things. Just be more competitive against teams that are your size schools.
Year 2 in the new region. There's no sectionals anymore. After year 2, your thoughts on that? still
On no sections?
Well, yeah, no sections, and how you feel about just 2 teams coming out of the region going straight to the tournament. You feel that's good, bad?
I know that
needs some work.
I do think that what Quad A did this year is interesting with the North-South thing. I like the regions better than let's seed everybody statewide and play a tournament that way, because which I've seen be suggested. I've seen people suggest that, like, we want the best 8 teams in there, which everybody wants the best 8 teams there. Yeah. Like, it's not everybody wants the best 8 teams in a tournament. And so let's just play a 1 through 16 and go that way. But I don't know how you seed that. I don't know how that gets seeded, because you see issues in the seeding already. Yeah. With the coaches voting stuff, there's already, I think the coaches voting regionals is a bad idea. And I've always thought that it was a bad idea. Before the infamous Capitol fiasco, before all of that, I think that you should have to play everybody in your region, and then it goes overall record, head-to-head record, and whatever you want the third tiebreaker to be, games won in your region or whatever you want it to be. I think that's the best way to do that. So, saying that, I think that does it suck? It's not great that our region had 2 of the best 3 teams in it, right? It hurt our chances this year to make the tournament. Nitro and Spring Valley are always going to be really good girls basketball programs. You look in the boys region, in our region, that region is crazy with how good those teams are. Winfield, Nitro, South Charleston, Spring Valley. Spring Valley was a 6 seed in that region and is really, really good. In boys, it was crazy. I just don't know how else you would do it, I guess, is my problem. I
like it better than the lose a game and you can still make the tournament.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan
I
of
agree with that.
And just, to me, I don't know who put that together, but I just felt that wasn't. But it was also not as bad as it was when I was going to school. You're talking about, your teams in your region, but, you get sometimes where every team in that region deserves to be.
Yeah.
They might have all lost 1 or 2 games, and only one person's coming out of that region.
Right.
So, that made it bad.
I think that there's every year you could point to, well, this system would have allowed this team who was really, really good and didn't make it to get in.
Yeah.
But I think you can't change it every year, and you would be changing it in hindsight. And I think that I like this better than, like you said, lose, go somewhere, win, and then suddenly you're in when you lost the game before. I like that every game means something. I don't think that there's any real other way to do it than this, to me. Now, could we seed it differently? The regions, we could seed differently, but I don't think that anything is – I think this is the best way to do it. Even though I do think that the North-South thing in Quad A is interesting. I'd be interested to see how it was if you had 16 or 18 teams in the North and the South, because they only had 10. So I think, like, maybe the top 4 seeds didn't even play in the first round, and then the first games played all those seeds, I think is how it worked. But I would be interested to see a North-South, but this is going to be me being a honk. I think the South has really, really good teams in it. Yeah. Even if you were North-South in high school basketball this year, there's still going to be good teams that miss the tournament. So you can't let perfect be the enemy of good. And I think trying to change the regional things is letting perfect be the enemy of good, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and we talked. We felt that Nitro was probably the number 1 seed in the region, and well deserved. And like you said, Spring Valley, could have been that number 1 seed in the region. I mean, I don't know how you voted, but so I think that played out.
Well, the votes were public. My vote was Nitro 1, Spring Valley 2 in the region. Like, I don't have any. My votes were public, so I could tell you how I voted.
There you go.
Nitro 1, Spring Valley 2 in the region, because head-to-head matters to me. Like, I think head-to-head matters, and even though it was early in the season, and this is no disrespect to Spring Valley at all, because obviously I've played them 5 times in the last 2 years. They've ended my season 2 straight years.
Yeah.
Definitely no shade at them.
You were just setting them up to play them again.
Definitely no shade at them. But I just think I just think head-to-head matters. And if you beat that team and there wasn't some kind of crazy extenuating circumstance, and I think most of my region voted that way. I think that was the way most of the region voted. So, there were some odd votes in the region that I'm not going to get into. People could get into them if they want to. But I voted Nitro 1 and Spring Valley 2 because head-to-head means something to me. And since the only loss was in the region was to each other, that's what I had to do in that one. So,
yeah. All right, good deal. What else is on your mind, Coach? What else do we have in there that you said you had some things bugging you? Let's get it out.
I'm not talking about any of that on camera. The stuff we were talking about pre, I'm not talking about on camera. I did get Mr. Brian Shepard, ex-former wonderful referee who used to ref me in Buddy League games, did set me straight on a rule that I did not realize was that way. It obviously didn't happen in the Spring Valley game where it mattered either way, but I always thought on an intentional foul you could pick the shooter. I didn't realize you couldn't. I didn't realize that. So so I have been giving a lot of thought to taking the referee. So here's what's on my mind. I've been giving a lot of thought to taking a referee class this time.
Okay.
This summer, because there are things I don't know, and there are things that frustrate me sometimes that maybe if I saw it from that side, it would make more sense to me, like the intentional foul thing. I didn't realize. So what is on my mind is I'm giving some consideration to doing the officials class.
Well, do the officials class, but you have to do you have to ref, because you won't understand until you're out there on the floor.
That's what people tell me. So
take the class and you think, oh, well, I can see it, but no, you have to be out there.
So maybe I have to do
you have to listen to a coach yell at you and scream at you and tell you that you're no good and you need to go back to wherever you came from and a few times. And
maybe I need to do little kids games. I wouldn't want to do. Obviously, I'm too busy doing our summer stuff to really ref a ton of games. And maybe I should try to do little league games or something like that in the fall.
Only problem you have is everybody. And I think that makes it worse when you know everybody. You know all the coaches and you know all the parents.
Well, that's what I always say is always funny to me when Buckley referees a game, because Buckley in the Kanawha Valley is probably he's got to be the most well-known official in the whole thing, right? And there are always parents from both sides. All I ever hear is, come on, Buck. I mean, just screaming at Buckley nonstop.
And he's got a smile on his face.
Yeah. And I don't know if just getting into it, I would be as patient as Buckley is with it, which I'm sure that's happened to him for 10 years now, where he gets it from both sides super hardcore. But if I do it, you're like the third person that's told me, yes, you can go take the class, but you actually have to do games. So I guess if I go that route, I will actually have to do games. But I'm giving it a lot of thought to actually going, because maybe I'm always looking for strategic advantage, and that may give me a strategic advantage anyway.
Well, let me tell you, I was telling Josh this one time. As many games as I've done on that court, I can almost break down, when I'm out there, what's going on. Not necessarily from the sideline, but when you're out there and you're standing underneath the basket and you see this going on, you just want to go over and tell the coach, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, you can't see this.
It would be an interesting way to look at it for sure. But my problem is, I wonder if I would get, the reason that I wouldn't want to do any game higher than Little League is I think I would start watching the game. I would get into what are they running? What is this kid doing? What is that kid? And I feel like I would get way too much into watching the game to do anything.
Especially when you see a player just take over a game.
It's hard not to just be like in awe. Yeah.
What? Mm-hmm. You get that little awe thing. Early on, I did a kid played over at Polka. I think he scored. It was a JV game. Scored 50 against Braxton County, and I remember it was just like, it was just fantastic. I mean, he was hitting everything. I mean, everything he was throwing up was going in, crossover, everything was working.
I remember when I first got to doing high school with the boys over at Nitro, that it was like the beginning of February when the game finally slowed down for me enough that I wasn't just watching it as a fan. That was when they had that GW team that had Noah and all the other kids that had went there. And I remember that I was coaching that game. You know, I'm an assistant coach. I'm not like X and O and stuff like that. But I was coaching that game, and I was watching Noah Lewis just in awe. Like I wasn't watching it as the Nitro coach or anything like that. I was just in awe of Noah. So it took me a while, even coaching, to get to where I wasn't watching the game like that. You know, sometimes what's interesting now is I'll look in a scorebook after a game and I'll be like, wow, I didn't realize that person had that many points, because I'm more watching what's going on combined than I am the individual kids sometimes. But I'm sure it would be like that in refereeing. I would get so obsessed with.
Yeah, you do catch yourself running over the quarter looking at the score. You know, you're talking about Noah Frampton. I remember I was third, fourth grade when he was playing Little League. He was playing at Nitro. And I was like so amazed, and I went over and was talking to the guy at the table. I said, "This kid's phenomenal for his age."
Right.
And he's like, "He don't even like basketball." And we know that story. I mean,
yeah, right. I'm telling you, man, it would be hard to do. I'm really thinking about doing it, but I guess if I have to do games, I would have to do something that I was completely emotionally uninvolved in. I had to go to like Ohio or Kentucky or somewhere where I didn't know.
Well, you can do the AA. Well, they don't call it AAU circuit anymore, do they?
I could maybe go do some some of those old GBA games, because I remember there were guys from the Canal Valley when we'd go like to Athens, Ohio, and Columbus, and
you go do these tournaments.
Nelson Cunningham would be in Athens, Ohio, and you'd be like, well, so that would be what I would have to do if I did it, where I was kind of like emotionally uninvolved in it, and make sure I do second, third graders that would be a speed that I could.
I'm surprised that Coach Almond does not give you all the key elements of officiating over there.
He does. He's always funny because he is probably, of our people on the bench, he is the official, but he is probably the most critical of officials of anybody on the bench, and that might be because he understands it.
Yeah.
You know, I think when I was going through my confusion of the intentional foul, why I couldn't pick the shooter, I think Coach was probably sitting there thinking, he's an idiot. Why is he?
Yeah.
But he was nice enough to not tell me at the moment that I was an idiot. But no, he's hardcore on him. He doesn't let something go, because he's done the ins and he's definitely done the ins and outs of it. He's done both sides as much as probably anybody in the state's done both sides, for sure.
Seems like he's been coaching for a long time. I mean, everything. I mean, he's been coaching. I think he was at Elkview or someplace one time for middle school and.
Right.
Sissonsville.
And I know this isn't like supposed to be
girls basketball.
This isn't supposed to be a St. Albans show, but like my coaching staff is so good and was so good this year, and man, I'm looking forward to, you know, obviously we're going to get back at it pretty soon, because I want to be competitive next year, and I think we have a chance to make a leap next year. But like somebody like Greg, who I met Greg through AAU basketball when I was doing AAU, and he was there maybe with his oldest granddaughter some, and his youngest the grandson now, who's getting ready to be in high school in 2 years. And I always remember the people like Greg and like Chris Fieldhouse and people like that when I was just some goof running around coaching AAU who didn't really know what I was doing and just, you know, trying to figure out what was going on. Greg was always so nice to me and always went out of his way to like answer questions if I had. And a guy like that to like put time into you when you're just a goof, and then him to come and help this year was really awesome. Some of the stuff you see now, and I'm only 2 years in, so it'd be crazy to think about like when you're Jamie and you've been doing it for 22 years, what that would be like. But so much of this stuff is just full circle already that, man, I love it. I love it, and I'm excited to do it, and hopefully we get to do a boys show next week. I'd like to do a boys show next week if you and Josh have time to do it, and we can get some more guests. Coach Frisbee was supposed to be on our roundtable here today, but he got pulled away for work. But I think these things are cool, and I think the more we can do.
Well, I think it'd be great. We can get Josh involved and get him off of the little production.
Josh has nothing better to do than that. I heard Josh. You know what I did? I went back and listened to you and Josh call that boys basketball game. Josh sometimes a little apprehensive about being on the mic, and he's like all this stuff that he does. That's why I'm glad that he said that he signed his contract in the Facebook comments for another year. Because if I had to go and figure this crap out, I mean, look at all this stuff he's got set out. If I had to go figure this stuff out, there'd be no.
It all looks new. I think he's bought all new stuff.
You know what he was telling me one time? He went on this. I always said that there was this old mechanic that my dad used to have that if he would just stop telling you about the car, he could fix the car in 30 seconds, but he wants to tell you every little piece of it because he just likes it that much. And I'm sure that's how my mom feels when I talk about basketball. I can tell she just glazes over. But Josh was talking to me one time about like a camera or a sound system or a speaker or something, and and how much he had spent on it, which I won't say on here, but how much he had spent on it and all the stuff he had done on it. And Josh he loves this stuff. Like this is his hobby. This is not.
I think we had that conversation this morning about the state wrestling tournament.
Did he do that too? Yeah. Did he do the state wrestling tournament? And then he's got Luke, his son, who comes over, and now I think Luke is getting the obsession. Even though Luke is supposed to be a world class long snapper at some point. I haven't seen him. I'll be the judge of that at some point. But Luke and Josh have got the. It's good to have people that are like that because there's no way I could set any of this stuff up.
Well, you talk about that last game. Josh really threw me off because he'd be talking. I thought he was talking over the air, and he wasn't. I was answering. Yeah. And he'd be like, I'm not on. And then he would be on, and then I would say,
you didn't realize he was on.
I didn't realize he was on.
The one thing that I love about the headphones is sometimes, and it's usually at Luke, Josh will be yelling at Luke for something. I don't know. It seems like before the game there's a 5-alarm fire that something Luke has done. Either Luke has done it or one of these days we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But either Luke has caused the problem or Luke is supposed to be the person fixing the problem because we'll be on that thing and I'll be talking to you and Eric and all I can hear is Luke in the headset and I have no idea what you said sometimes. And I think that's where me just talking and maybe not even answering your question sometimes came from because I know Luke did something or Luke is fixing something, but that's all I know about the question you asked me. So.
I think it was the score bot. I mean, that seemed like that score bot was Luke's.
I don't even know
Luke's nightmare this year. I mean, he just could not get that thing to work, and
that's why it's a good
poor
thing.
Guy.
That's why it's a good thing to have people like you and people like Josh and people like Luke, and that will donate time and work and do stuff like this. And that's why I think us expanding into doing some football stuff, doing some soccer stuff, doing some volleyball stuff, doing some softball, baseball stuff would be a good idea. I think it's a cool idea. I think there's people that are interested in it. Not necessarily my take, but like just in talking about it. So I think it's a good thing, and I think it's hopefully we can do Josh can get us set up with a boys show next week, and I will work on getting more guests so it's not just me vamping for 45 minutes.
There you go. Well, let's talk about your schedule here for this week.
Yep.
You got a cot here at the stadium here?
Come on now.
Are you sleeping under the bleachers?
I haven't missed the last state tournament that I didn't go to at least one day of, boys and girls, was when I was living in Virginia when my mom was going to law school in 6th grade was the last time I didn't. So I will be over here there at least for the morning tomorrow to watch Catholic, because I've seen those kids since they were in middle school and stuff like that, and I'm a big fan of some of those kids on that team. Then Wednesday moved in, Thursday moved in, Friday not leaving, Saturday not leaving. So yeah, I'm moved in here for the next. I moved in here for the next 3 or 4 days because I love this stuff.
I think he's got a trailer. Josh got a trailer out back there.
He got that trailer. You know that trailer that he had at the? Were you over there when he did that thing at the Mound where he was doing the concerts and he had the trailer?
No, it's probably the same one.
It's in Florida.
Oh,
okay. Well, he needs. That's what we need. You're right. We could get him get us set up out here on the lot and have a good walk over to First Watch for breakfast. Walk back over. We can have a good old time. That's what we need to do. Because Josh basically lives here.
They take vacation.
And Luke will because school's out. So Josh and Luke they'll probably live over here. I'd say they don't leave.
Yeah, they probably won't.
Are you coming at all this week?
I'll be here sometime. I don't know
Yeah.
when. I want to see Nitro.
Yeah, that's an early morning Wednesday game.
I'll miss that one, but hopefully they'll get to the second round and get to see that Spring Valley game, and because I think that's an evening game. So
I think we've got to go to Nitro at Winfield Regional Boys tomorrow at 7, and then we'll turn around and be over here for Nitro Girls 9:30, which I think is an interesting game. I think that'll be a good game. Princeton did beat them earlier in the year, but I wonder. No offense to Princeton, but I think that was like they had played Green East the night before and turned around and played Princeton at like 1 o'clock or something.
That's the only time they lost 2 games in a row.
That's a hard turnaround. I'm talking about how hard it would be to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You don't even get 24-hour break. Sometimes that's the thing that happens in that FCA tournament over there that they have at the beginning of the year is the teams will play a night game at their place and then turn around and play a 12 o'clock game at the FCA thing. And I think that's hard on you.
I think you guys played at night, but you had a day off. Did you have that day off last year?
When?
Before you played University and then you bit Spring Valley. That was a day game.
We were off. We played at 9 p.m. We were the late game.
Yeah.
Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. And then we were off.
I think it was Wednesday, off Thursday, then played Friday.
I see they're giving out these little commemorative coins, too, for the people that were in the tournament. I guess I'm going to get me a little coin to hang up in my office, too.
There you go.
With all my other stuff that's in there. I think half my kids are in college now, so those players probably.
Oh, we should have brought that up. I did see the MEC. You had a couple players in championships.
Yeah,
there.
you know what I think about the MEC? That if you're just a basketball nerd, which obviously
I miss it being at the Civic Center because I used to come.
That would be awesome.
I used to come and watch it,
and it was something. Again, when I was in high school and I was younger, it was like, oh, who cares about that? Crap. And then you watch it now as coaching and stuff, and especially since freshmen are basically done in D1 basketball. It's just hard to just all the transfer portal and all that stuff. It's hard to be a freshman and play in D1. The interesting thing about watching those MEC boys and girls games is how many of those people you coached against or you coached or you that UC. Did you watch the UC?
No, I didn't see
game?
It.
Well, UC did put the voodoo on defensively. They took a team that averages 86 points a game and only gave up 47 or 48. They had a coach Johnson had a really, really good plan for him in that game. And so I knew a bunch of those kids that were in that game. And then you did look over at the boys game in Fairmont State. I remember watching Dobbs, who plays for them and plays a lot for them now. I remember watching him practice in joint practices over at Fairmont Senior when I was over on the boys side, and it's good to see he's doing well because Lord, he was a real worker when he played. So it would be good to. Do they bid that out every so often, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think it works. Much like the state football tournament, about every 7-10 years or something.
If they would bring that back here, I would 100%. I would have 100%.
It was here forever.
Wasn't? Yeah.
I think. I mean, it. Charleston was.
It looks like a nice gym that they're in up there in Wheeling. I don't know what that is or what is. That's a convention center or what that is. That's a nice gym. It looked like.
West Bank.
Okay. It looked like a nice thing online when I was looking at it, but. Man, there's good basketball to be found.
That D2, you're just talking about high scoring teams. That's usually boys and girls. Remember the girl that went to Tennessee that was at Marshall? I mean, that Glenville State teams. I mean, they would just put some points up.
Yeah.
State's had a couple of teams in boys basketball that could just put points up. We know West Lib always puts up points, and
they're wild to watch. They just press.
That's what's so much fun. You come down here and you just watch these guys just light it up. I mean, it's just.
And I think that the thing that again, being a basketball honk. Even talking about I don't know all the teams in AA or single A. I know a lot more of the AAA and the quad A teams, but you'll always see something down. I'm just not coming Tuesday all day because I got to get a break at some point. But if you're a basketball person, there's always something interesting, whether it's a player, whether it's a set, whether it's a scheme, whether it's what a coach is trying to do. There's always something interesting to watch in it if you're just a real. I know that Ohio and all these other places maybe only had the Final Four or the Final Two that all beat together at the same place and play. The West Virginia State basketball tournament is one of the best events in high school sports in the country, just because you get all these teams together in one spot and you can just sit here all day and watch basketball. And Man, it's awesome.
And now they add an extra day, so that even makes it better.
I love it, man. It's awesome.
I mean, I thought, well, 4A, we don't need it, but man, it makes it fun.
It is fun. It is fun. And there's interesting stuff. There's interesting first-round matchups in both of them. Again, whether I would say that the teams win or lose, I don't know. But there are teams that are just interesting. Like, they can force you to play.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know that part of the problem the first 2 or 3 years of the 4 classes was that every game in the first round was a blowout. I don't think it was like that last year, where it wasn't every game was a blowout. And I think this year is going to be much less.
Well, we had blowouts last year in the championship games. Spring Valley, and
Gilmer County definitely blew whoever out. I think Catholic's game wasn't even necessarily close when they won last year. No, I love it though. Yeah, I'll definitely see you over here. Be eating popcorn, drinking Cold River coffee.
Whatever. Josh has us in the hospitality room.
Josh won't be in the hospitality room. He'll be sitting out there at the monitors the whole time. That's all he'll do.
We'll have to give him a break. But I always listen to him on the radio when I'm at work too, so that's always fun because they always have great guys on color. I mean, these guys have been doing these games forever.
Man, one of the highlights of my whole thing last year was growing up and sitting here and listening to Fred Persinger was when I got interviewed by Fred Persinger after that university game. I know that is the nerdiest thing in the history of the world, but like that's probably obviously winning the game, right?
He's probably been around since the very first game.
Gosh, man, Fred Persinger being interviewed by him as a coach who had just won a state tournament game. That's probably, and then like you're watch a game back and Mark Martin's calling a game that you're on. There's people that you've watched and listened to and been in it the whole time. That's the other cool thing about it. Just all these people that have kind of just been around. You got Mayor James running around here doing the whole media room thing, and he'll be running in and out all week. And it's very much a, I guess, family affair would be the thing you would say when you just have the same people over and over again. They become, like, to me, Fred Persinger and Mark Martin are as much a part of the state tournament. Joe Mercado as
Kyle Wiggs has been there forever.
Man, I love it. It's awesome.
And, it used to be Speedy Bevins. I don't know if Speedy still does them or not. It used to be Speedy and Freddie do the games until Tony Caridi stepped in and did the championship games.
My goal, And we're out having a good time talking about it and everything. But all this does is get to make sure my team is back here and involved in it next year, and to make sure that we come out on the top of the mountain at some point. Like this coming and seeing it now, and just being at the Civic Center today and stuff. Like, my competitive thing is going through the roof right now. So,
well, one thing we will have is year 1 of consolidated in the middle school. So we'll see if that brings out numbers or brings out talent, or
we'll see. It'll be interesting, man.
I like to see that overall with football, baseball, everything, and see how that is working out.
It'll be an interesting thing for sure.
Because I think that's what we needed in this city, I guess, and I think that. Well, I don't know if it was you. Somebody we interviewed said that the middle school had a lot of numbers this year on the girls' basketball side. So
they did. They definitely did. They were packed in girls' basketball, and there's some talent coming up from there. And so, we will get to next year, but this being here is like gets my competitive juices.
You
going,
making the girls come up at least to see 1 game, 2 games, or pick one out for them to say you need to check it out, what you're missing.
I think them being on spring break this week, it is no telling what. Yeah. You don't have to have any contact with me until we get the off-season program going, and it's coming up sooner than they think it's coming. So, they can do whatever they want to do this week and next week, and then we'll go from there.
Good deal. Well, Josh, I think that'll wrap us up. Sideline Sessions, we're calling this one, and thanks to Jamie Lemasters coming in for the interview to start off. Thanks to the Civic Center. Boy, this is great. You think this is great?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the press room. It's got me wound up.
The only thing would have been better if we were sitting down on center court and we got the big picture of the backdrop of a basketball hoop or something.
Josh will get that figured out. Josh, listen, there's nothing Josh can't get figured out. He'll get that figured out.
Maybe we can do that next week with the guys, and we can have a big ESPN table or something.
That'd look good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it
Josh will
would.
figure it out. He figured out how to run the cables there and everything.
You know, it'd be like from the national championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than this. You know, I was in the hotel business prior to doing what I'm doing now, and it was huge. Let me tell you, people would come from all over. You know who brought the most people were single A schools. I think if you're in a community with a single A school, everybody came. I think if you didn't come, you were an outcast.
Well, even in AAA 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever Nitro won the title, I remember they played Lewis County. And this place was so full of Lewis County people that it was there couldn't have been a single business in Weston open.
It.
Couldn't have been.
It's amazing that you might travel 3 hours to get here, but you're bringing busloads of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just they must just load that bus as full as they can get it and take as many as they can and
for sure
drop them off at the door and usually when they pass out the end of the year or whatever, the best fans, it's always single A school. So we'll see. I think Pocahontas County's first up or one of the first up schools. So and Wyoming East, another one. I mean, they'll bring everybody from Oceana to Yeager to whoever else is consolidated.
They'll all be loaded in. Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Just like grandma, grandpa, and they might even dig up the dead and bring them in. I don't know, but it will be jam packed. So, thanks again. Thanks to Josh. Thanks to Luke. And Coach, we'll see you next week. Hopefully.
Sounds good.
Coach Elias Gregory. I'm Mark Seipel. Thanks for joining us.